Honestly, I couldn't care less about some random family popping out of the woodwork. To me, the only family that mattered was the adoptive one that actually raised the old Max. The Sterlings, who had taken him in when he had nothing, who had loved him without conditions, who had never made him feel like a replacement. But, since the Sterlings had their real son back, Mason, the biological child, I had no intention of crashing their happy reunion, either. Two families fighting over me. No thank you. That sounded exhausting. Max, are you listening to me? The woman's voice was cracking, desperate now. Please, just let me see you just once. Your father, your sister, your brother, we've all missed you so much. Tommy talks about you all the time, even though he's never met you. Just one meeting. I'm begging you. One meeting, and if you never want to see us again, I'll respect that. Just break time equals 400 ms / please. I flicked my lighter, lit a cigarette, and slowly blew out a stream of smoke, watching it curl toward the ceiling. The silence stretched between us, heavy and expectant. Finally, I spoke. Cloudscape Villas, number 1. I'll give you 15 minutes. No more. Okay, we're coming right now. The call disconnected. I stared at the phone for a long moment, then tossed it onto the cushion beside me and fell deep into thought. This world was getting more absurd by the minute. Dragon kings, dragon gods, martial arts masters, long-lost biological families, adopted siblings with inheritance dramas. It was like someone had thrown every web novel trope into a blender and hit puree. Even as a transmigrator, surviving here wouldn't be a walk in the park. One wrong move, one misplaced trust, and I could get played to death. As for this Vance family, I could feel it in my bones. The lingering soul of the past Max still had some unresolved emotional baggage attached to them. Some unfinished business. Some buried pain that hadn't been processed. I might as well meet them, if only to put that ghost to rest. And if nothing else, I could use them to gather some intel on how this world's political landscape operated. Knowledge was power, after all. Before long, estate security called to confirm the arrival of visitors claiming to be my family. I authorized entry. Might as well get this over with, and waited. The doorbell rang a few minutes later. I got up, muttering to myself, I really need to hire some maids. Opening my own door is exhausting. The moment I opened the door, a highly elegant, wealthy-looking woman lunged forward and threw her arms around me, sobbing into my chest. Max, my baby, my little boy. I frowned, gently but firmly peeling her off me. Come inside and talk. We're not doing this on the doorstep. The woman's eyes went red, tears spilling over her carefully made-up cheeks. How break time equals 400 ms / how can you treat your own mother like this? After all these years, you don't even want to hug me? Behind her stood a young man, early 20s, I guessed, biting his lip and looking like he was bearing the weight of the world's injustices on his narrow shoulders. He had a scrawny, almost sickly look, the kind that came from never doing a day of manual labor in his life. His face was arranged in an expression of brave martyrdom, as if he expected to be crucified at any moment. Next to him stood a middle-aged man radiating authority, tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that made people straighten their spines unconsciously. Though he was trembling slightly, probably from emotion, there was steel in his bearing. He was someone accustomed to command. And beside him, a woman around 25 with the sharp, intimidating aura of a ruthless corporate CEO. Her striking features were arranged in an expression of cold assessment, as if she were evaluating an acquisition target rather than a long-lost brother. She wore a designer pantsuit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, and her heels added 3 inches to her already impressive height. The whole gang was here. Hearing the young man's complaint, some mumbled comment about how I was being ungrateful and cold. I shot him a cold smirk. What kind of garbage is spilling out of your mouth? Sounds like you'd rather get lost than come inside. In that case, get lost. Slam. I shut the heavy door right in their faces. The force of the door actually blew the hair back on their heads. I could hear the woman's gasp of surprise, the young man's indignant sputter. The four of them stood on the porch, staring at each other in utter disbelief. They clearly hadn't expected me to pull a move like that. Most people, when confronted with a wealthy, powerful family begging for reconciliation, would have fallen over themselves to accept. But I wasn't most people. The CEO woman, Tessa, if my memory served, turned and scolded the young man. Tommy, we lost him for years. It's completely normal for him to have some resentment now that we finally found him. Stop making this about you. But Mom, Tommy Vance looked incredibly wronged, his lower lip actually trembling. I'm just looking out for you. Even if he hates us, he shouldn't treat you like that. You're his mother. He lowered his head, playing the martyr with theatrical precision. I know what this is. It's because I'm the adopted son. He thinks I stole his place. Eventually, you're all going to kick me out, and then he'll be happy. Tommy, no. Tessa looked genuinely heartbroken at the thought. This has nothing to do with you. Max grew up in an orphanage. He doesn't know how to be part of a family. It's normal that his personality is a bit break time equals 400 ms / eccentric. Don't worry, we won't let you go anywhere. You're my little brother forever, no matter what. Sister, break time equals 400 ms / Tommy looked so touched he was about to cry. Before they could continue their soap opera melodrama, the middle-aged man, Lionel Vance, the patriarch, finally barked, "Enough. We're standing on a porch like common beggars. What are you babbling about? If we have something to say, we say it inside." He gestured for his wife to ring the bell again. I opened the door, leaning against the frame with a mocking smile, before she could. What? Forgot something. Max, can you just let us in? Didn't you agree to let your mother see you? We traveled across the city to get here. The least you could do is be civil. Cut the begging. I raised a hand to stop the woman. Victoria, I reminded myself, from bowing. I feel absolutely nothing for you people. But I'm not psycho enough to make a woman who might actually be my biological mother bow to me on my own doorstep. I stepped aside, holding the door open. I'm a transmigrator and I do whatever I want, but I draw the line at being a complete sociopath. Come in. Sit down. Say what you came to say, then leave. The living room felt smaller with 5 people in it, especially 4 people who seemed to take up emotional space like they were paying rent. I took the master sofa, the biggest, most comfortable seat in the house, lit another cigarette, and gestured casually with my free hand. Sit. The 4 of them sat down on the opposite sofa, arranged in a neat row like a family portrait. Victoria Vance, my alleged mother, sat in the middle, flanked by Lionel on one side and Tessa on the other. Tommy perched on the end, looking like he was ready to bolt at any moment. Dead silence. The atmosphere in the room grew incredibly awkward, thick with unspoken words and buried resentments. Noticing Victoria just staring at me like I was a museum exhibit she'd been searching for her whole life, I pulled out my cigarette pack and extended it toward her. Care for a smoke, ma'am? Victoria's face froze, clearly not expecting that. Max, is that how you speak to your own mother? Offering her a cigarette like she's a stranger at a bar. Tessa, the corporate ice queen, couldn't take it anymore. She shot to her feet, her heels clicking against the marble, and glared at me with pure disgust. This is what you've become? A sarcastic chain smoker who lives in a mansion and treats his own mother like a door-to-door saleswoman? Do you have any idea what we went through to find you? The resources we spent, the favors we called in, I gave her a lazy sideways glance, blowing a stream of smoke in her direction. She coughed and waved it away, her glare intensifying. What does the angry lady want? A drag too? Or did you come all this way just to lecture me about my life choices? Because I've got to say, I've had better lectures from drunk uncles at weddings. Do you people even have a DNA test? I interrupted, my voice still calm. Or are we doing the whole blood drop in a bowl of water medieval thing? Because I prefer the DNA test. Less messy. Also, I don't trust your blood not to stain my floors. I don't know if she's my mother or not. I continued, standing up slowly. A massive, suffocating wave of killing intent instantly flooded the room, choking the air out of their lungs. The lights seemed to dim. The temperature dropped. Every instinct in their bodies screamed danger. But I do know this. If you use that tone of voice with me again, if you glare at me like I'm something you scraped off your shoe, I will personally throw you out the front door. And I won't open it first. You'll make a new exit. Through the wall. Tessa opened her mouth to argue. Her pride wouldn't let her back down easily. But Lionel roared, "Enough! Sit down, Tessa!" Now, Tessa reluctantly sat back down, but a flash of genuine fear crossed her eyes. Just a second ago, she swore she smelled actual blood radiating from Max. It was like staring down an apex predator, a lion, a tiger, something that could end her life without a second thought. Even if her father hadn't yelled, her survival instincts were screaming at her to sit down and shut up. I slowly exhaled a cloud of smoke, watching it drift toward the ceiling. All right, let's get to the point. You came here for a reason. Speak fast. I'm hungry. And once I'm done dealing with you lot, I need to go eat. Preferably something that doesn't require me to listen to family drama while I chew. Realizing they needed to cut to the chase, Victoria hurriedly explained their identities and how we were related. The Vance family, she explained, was a top-tier powerhouse in the capital, old money, deep connections, a legacy that stretched back generations. The man was Lionel Vance, the patriarch, a former military officer who had turned the family business into a multinational conglomerate. The woman was Victoria Vance, his wife, from another prominent family. The IC CEO was my older sister, Tessa Vance, who had been running the day-to-day operations since Lionel's health had started declining. And the whiny kid was the adopted son, Tommy Vance, who had been taken in when I was presumed dead. The Vance Group was valued at over $500 billion, with interests in real estate, technology, defense contracting, and international shipping. They were one of the most powerful families in the country, with connections that reached into the highest levels of government. Years ago, during a brutal war for the position of patriarch, enemies had swarmed them. Lionel's rivals had hired assassins, bribed officials, turned allies into enemies. In the chaos of one particularly violent attack, I was kidnapped, snatched from my nanny's arms, and bundled into a waiting car. The kidnappers planned to use me as leverage against Lionel, but they got wiped out by a rival faction before they could make their demands. The trail went cold. I was dumped at an orphanage with no identification, no records, no way to trace me back to the Vance family. And there I stayed. For years. Growing up in the system, never knowing that I had a family who was looking for me. It was only a few days ago, Victoria explained, when they caught wind that someone named Max Sterling had purchased Clouscape Villa No. 1, a property that had been reserved for the Vance family for generations, that they tracked me down. The name Sterling had triggered an alert in their system. A background check had turned up my orphanage records. And then, finally, after nearly 2 decades, they had found their son. Listening to Victoria's story, I couldn't help but marvel at the sheer absurdity of it all. Isn't this the exact plot of one of those real versus fake young masterweb novels? The long-lost heir, the adoptive sibling who feels threatened, the family trying to make amends. It was like someone had ripped the pages out of a best-selling novel and turned them into my life. I just escaped a tragic simp plotline, and now I've tripped and fallen into family inheritance drama? Add in the overpowered Dragon King stuff, the system notifications, the rival chosen ones with their own abilities, and this world was a migraine waiting to happen. If a reincarnated immortal emperor showed up next, I wouldn't even be surprised. I'd just sigh and add him to the list. Son, are you listening? Victoria asked carefully, noticing my weird expression, a mixture of amusement, exhaustion, and mild disbelief. Snapping back to reality, I blew out some smoke. I hear you. It's a very touching story. Really, Hallmark should make a movie about it. So what? What's your endgame here? You didn't track me down across 2 decades just to say hello. The blunt question caught Victoria off guard, but she quickly softened her tone. Naturally, we want you to come home to the Vance family. Reclaim your true name, Max Vance, not Sterling. Reclaim your birthright. We don't want you out here suffering all alone, without family, without support. Suffering. I almost burst out laughing. I gestured around the room, at the crystal chandeliers, the marble floors, the priceless art, the imported furniture. Lady, what exactly are you smoking? And can I get some? Because you must be on something strong to look at this palace and think I'm suffering. Do you not see this massive mansion? The walls literally have jade inlaid in them. The sofa you're sitting on cost more than most people's houses. Do you know how much this place costs, and you think I'm suffering? Not just Victoria, but even Lionel looked at me with deep sorrow, the kind of pity reserved for people who didn't know they needed pity. Tessa and Tommy, however, had their guards up, their eyes sharp and calculating. They were clearly worried I was here to steal the inheritance, to swoop in like a vulture and take everything they had worked for. Look, Mrs. Vance, I don't know what else to call you, so Mrs. Vance it is. With what eye do you see me suffering? I'm living like a king. I have more money than I know what to do with. I have an army at my command. I have a system in my head that rewards me for being awesome. And as for changing my name, pass. I'm used to Sterling. It's the name of the family that actually raised me, that actually loved me, that didn't abandon me to an orphanage for 20 years. Besides, Vance sounds kind of lame. Like a car brand for old people. Lame. The entire Vance family sat there, utterly stupefied. This was the first time in history anyone had ever rejected them because their billionaire son's name sounded lame. Tommy seized his moment like a shark smelling blood. He jumped to his feet with righteous fury, his voice trembling with manufactured outrage. I know you're upset. I know you blame us, blame me, for taking your place. But you can't talk to our parents like that. They've never stopped looking for you. They've spent millions on private investigators, on DNA databases, on everything they could think of. It's not their fault you were lost. It's not my fault I was adopted. And if you really hate seeing me so much, if my presence is truly that unbearable, then fine. I'll pack my bags and leave the Vance family today. I'll disappear, just like you did. Would that make you happy? By the end of his speech, tears were literally welling up in his eyes, threatening to spill down his cheeks. His voice cracked on the last word. It was a performance worthy of an Oscar. The wronged innocent, the sacrificial lamb, the poor adopted son being pushed out by the jealous biological heir. Victoria's heart visibly broke. She reached out and grabbed Tommy's hand, pulling him back down onto the sofa. Tommy, what are you saying? Max is your brother. Even if he comes back, even if he takes his rightful place in the family, we will always love you. You're not going anywhere. This is your home as much as anyone's. I watched this unfold and was completely speechless. Holy crap. This guy was a textbook pick-me boy, just like Kyle. The same manipulative tears, the same fake vulnerability, the same, I'm the victim here, energy. Was this world mass-producing these guys? Was there a factory somewhere churning out weepy, passive-aggressive, emotionally manipulative men? At this rate, I was going to need a punch card just to keep track of all the people I wanted to hit. Exactly. Tessa stood up to defend him, stepping between Tommy and me as if I were about to attack. Tommy, don't worry. No one is taking your place. You are my little brother, and I will always protect you. Max can have a place in the family, but he doesn't get to push you out. Mom, sister, break time equals for 100 ms / Tommy looked at the two women with such gratitude, such devotion, such pathetic neediness that I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. God damn it. I was so distracted by this soap opera unfolding in my living room that I almost let my cigarette burn my fingers. I crushed the cigarette in an ashtray, crossed my legs, and stared at them with an expression of profound boredom. Can you guys wrap up this deep family bond theater? I almost burned my hand. How about you take this performance back to your own house and practice in front of a mirror? You're blocking my view of the window. Victoria finally remembered why she was here and hurried over to me, kneeling in front of my sofa like a supplicant before a king. Max, can you please forgive Mom? Please? After all these years apart, we want to make it up to you. I'm willing to give you anything. Anything. Just name it. Really? I glanced at Tommy, a dangerous smirk playing on my lips. Then go slap him twice. Looking at his face is giving me a headache. And honestly, I think it would do him some good. Build character. Teach him that tears don't work on everyone. Dead silence. Victoria's eyes filled with conflict and pain, her hand twitching involuntarily. Tessa stared at me in disbelief, her mouth hanging open. Max, are you crazy? That's your brother. Family doesn't hit family. What kind of monster are you? Lionel frowned deeply, his eyes full of suspicion and, beneath that, something else, curiosity. As the patriarch of the Vance family, he wasn't stupid. Before coming here, he had pulled Max's file. The overseas records were blank, redacted, blacked out, deliberately erased. But since returning to the country, Max had been a notoriously weak, spineless simp, according to the reports. A man who cooked for his girlfriend, who let her walk all over him, who had no backbone whatsoever. But the man sitting in front of him wasn't weak. He carried himself with the natural arrogance of a king, someone accustomed to obedience, to deference, to having his orders followed without question. The file was wrong, or outdated, or deliberately misleading. Either way, Lionel was reevaluating everything he thought he knew about his biological son. Victoria wasn't thinking that deeply. She just looked at me with pure anxiety, her hands clasped together. Max, Tommy is your brother. How could you ask me to hit him? That's not who I am. That's not who our family is. All right, that's enough. I waved my hand impatiently, cutting her off. I have zero interest in playing happy family with you people. I don't want to attend your holiday dinners. I don't want to be in your family photos. I definitely don't want to be the heir to whatever the Vance family is, fighting with your adopted son for scraps of your approval. The door's that way. See yourselves out. And don't let it hit you on the way out. Max, you can't do this. Hearing my ultimate rejection, Victoria finally panicked. Her composure shattered. Her voice rose to a desperate pitch. You're my son. My son. I carried you. I gave birth to you. I mourned you for years. You can't just reject me like this. You can't. She turned to look at Tommy, her hand twitching involuntarily. Her biological son was sitting right in front of her, cold and unreachable, refusing to acknowledge her. She felt like she owed him the world. Every moment she hadn't been there, every birthday she had missed, every tear he had cried alone. If slapping Tommy meant getting Max back, maybe, just maybe, she'd do it. But before she could move, Tommy let out a tragic sob, covering his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. His voice was so mournful it could make rocks cry. It's fine, Mom. I understand. He's your real son. I'm just the replacement. Just hit me. I deserve it. I've been living a lie all these years. I just scowled. What the hell is this? Is this guy even a man? Why is everyone I meet a drama queen? First Kyle, now Tommy. Was there a support group for melodramatic crybabies that I didn't know about? And if so, could I get them banned from it? Tommy's performance made Victoria flinch, her resolve wavering. Her hand hovered in the air, torn between two suns. Seeing her hesitation, a smug glint flashed in Tommy's eyes, so quick I almost missed it. Yes, he was thinking, as long as I use family ties to lock them down, Max, a child with no foundation, no connections, no understanding of how the Vance family works, can't compete with me. The heir to the Vance family will be me. Max, you pathetic simp, just stay out of my way. Thinking this, he dialed up the tragedy to 11. Mom, if he really hates me that much, just hit me. If it brings him home, you can beat me to death. I won't complain. I'll just be grateful that my existence served some purpose. Tommy, stop talking. Victoria and Tessa rushed forward to comfort him, wrapping their arms around him protectively. I sat on the sofa. Lionel sat on the other sofa. We both had the exact same frown and the exact same speechlessly annoyed expression as we watched this Oscar-worthy performance unfold. Father and son, united in exasperation, separated by 2 decades of distance. Lionel looked at Tommy whining on the floor, deep dissatisfaction brewing in his eyes. The Vance family was built on ruthless strength, on the kind of iron will that had built an empire from nothing. The war for succession in elite families was famously brutal. Siblings turned against siblings. Alliances shifted like sand. The weak were devoured. And yet, here was Tommy crying at the drop of a hat, playing the victim, manipulating with tears instead of strategy. Clearly, he didn't share the Vance bloodline. He was useless. A liability. Someone who would crumble the moment things got difficult. Max, on the other hand, despite the horrible intel report, was anything but weak in person. Sure, he was rude and arrogant and apparently willing to put his feet on people's backs. But an heir to the Vance family needed fangs. Needed claws. Needed to be willing to get their hands dirty. And Max, whatever else he was, clearly had that. Having reached his limit, Lionel jumped up and roared. A grown man crying like a baby. What a total disgrace. Since when does the Vance family raise such pathetic trash? His voice echoed off the walls, making the chandeliers tremble. Tommy froze, unable to believe that his usually doting father would say something so harsh. Dad? What do you mean? I'm just. Don't dad me. Lionel snapped coldly. Look at the mess you've made. What is the Vance family known for? Strength. Power. The ability to stare down our enemies without flinching. If our heirs are this spineless, if they crumble into tears the moment someone looks at them wrong, the other syndicates will swallow us whole. The Zhongs, the Winstons, the Sterlings, they'll tear us apart and pick at the bones. Hearing her father's reprimand, Tessa gritted her teeth. She pulled a dossier out of her designer bag, a thick folder bulging with papers, and threw it onto the coffee table with a slap. So what? At least Tommy loves us. At least he's loyal. What about Max? Look at him. She pointed a perfectly manicured finger at me, her voice dripping with contempt. For the past few years, he's been nothing but a pathetic lapdog for some woman named Lily Yates. He cooked for her. He cleaned for her. He spent millions on her company. He was a simp, Dad. A complete and utter doormat. Does someone like that deserve to be the Vance heir? I will never accept him. Never. Seeing Tessa fiercely defend him, Tommy shot me a triumphant look. A quick, smug glance that said, see? They love me more than you. You'll never win. Bang. I casually kicked the solid jade coffee table. Not hard, just a gentle nudge, really. But the massive, heavy slab of stone slid 2 meters across the floor, scraping grooves into the marble, and stopped inches away from shattering Tessa's kneecaps. She screamed and fell backward onto the floor, cold sweat pouring down her face like a waterfall, her designer heels skidding across the polished stone. I stood up slowly, my eyes practically freezing over. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. You said your name was Tessa, right? My voice was soft, almost gentle, the kind of softness that precedes a hurricane. Have I been too polite to you? Because I feel like I've been very polite. I let you into my home. I listened to your story. I didn't immediately throw you out when you started insulting me. And this is how you repay my hospitality? By calling me a doormat in my own living room. What are you talking about? Tessa's voice shook, clearly terrified by the display of brute force. The coffee table weighed at least 500 pounds, solid jade, polished to a mirror shine, and I had moved it like it was made of cardboard. I slowly walked over to her, my footsteps echoing in the silence. Click, click, click. Each step brought me closer, and each step made her flinch. Tessa tried to keep her composure. She was a CEO. Damn it. She had faced down hostile boardrooms and aggressive competitors, but as my shadow fell over her, something broke. She scrambled backward on her hands and heels until she was pressed against the sofa, her back against the cushions, nowhere left to retreat. Her soul practically left her body. Her eyes were wide, white showing all around the irises. Victoria finally snapped out of her shock and threw herself in front of me, arms spread wide like a human shield. Max, Mom knows you hate us, and it's all my fault. I should have searched harder. I should have never stopped looking. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Hit me instead. Just don't. Lady, you're deeply confused. I cut her off sharply, my voice flat. When did I ever agree that you people were my family? When did I ever say I hated you? Hate requires emotional investment. I feel absolutely nothing for you. You're strangers who showed up at my door with a sob story. That's all. I turned my gaze back to Tessa, still cowering against the sofa. And as I just said, if she keeps barking at me, I will physically throw her out. I don't make empty threats. Ask Lily. Ask Kyle. They learned that lesson tonight. Brother, please don't be mad at her. Though terrified, his face was pale, his hands shaking. Tommy knew this was his moment to shine. If he could make the Vance family hate Max completely, if he could position himself as the noble martyr who tried to protect his sister, his position would be secured forever. He pulled Victoria behind him, puffing out his chest, trying to look heroic despite his trembling knees. If you're angry, take it out on me. They only acted like this because of me, because they love me and want to protect me. You can hit me. You can. Before he could finish his brave speech, my fist buried itself so deep into his stomach that I felt his spine through the layers of flesh and muscle. The impact made a sound like a mallet hitting a side of beef. Tommy doubled over violently, dry heaving, his eyes bulging, all the air driven from his lungs in a single explosive whoosh. I grabbed him by the hair, a handful of expensively styled locks, and yanked his head back so he was looking at me. My voice was bored, almost conversational. You asked me to take it out on you. I'm just following orders. Better make sure you can take a hit, right? Otherwise, why offer? With that, I drove my knee squarely into his back. Crack. The sickening sound of snapping bone echoed through the room like a gunshot. Tommy collapsed to his knees, his face entirely distorted with pain, mouth open in a silent scream, eyes squeezed shut, tears and snot streaming down his cheeks. He was in so much agony that his vocal cords literally couldn't produce sound. His body shook with dry, heaving sobs that made no noise. Max, what are you doing? Victoria shrieked in horror, rushing forward to grab my arm. I shook her off like a fly. Tessa forced down her own fear. Her whole body was trembling, but she scrambled over to check on Tommy, her hands hovering over him uselessly. Tommy, can you hear me? Say something. Lionel's face darkened, his jaw tight. He stared at me with terrifying intensity, the kind of look a general gives an enemy who has just outmaneuvered him. That is enough, Max, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what has passed between us. He is still your brother in name. Do not cross the line. I will not warn you again. I casually grabbed a tissue from the box on the side table, wiped my knuckles clean, and tossed it onto Tommy's trembling head. It landed on his hair like a white flag of surrender. Oh, I crossed a line. My apologies. I thought the line was don't kill anyone. You didn't specify that breaking bones was off limits. How about you finish the job for me, old man? While you're at it, make sure Tessa finds the door. I'm tired of looking at her face. I am speaking to you, Max. Lionel's eyes narrowed dangerously, his voice dropping to a low growl. He despised people taking that tone with him, especially his own son, especially in front of his family. It seems that living on the streets all these years has made you forget your place. You think because you have money, because you have this house, that you are above us. Above your own blood. Fine. You're young. You're arrogant. Today, I will teach you a lesson. Let you know that there is always a bigger fish. He barked an order into the air, to no one visible. Agent 1, teach the young master some manners. Make sure not to permanently cripple him. I still want him functional. The moment the words left his mouth, a shadow blurred into existence right in front of me. A completely average-looking middle-aged man. Unremarkable face. unremarkable build, the kind of man you would pass on the street without a second glance. But his eyes were sharp, his movements economical, and his presence screamed danger. "Forgive the offense, young master," he said coldly, with the mechanical politeness of a man who had delivered these words many times before. "I will try to make this quick." And then he threw a punch. Whoosh. The strike was so fast it left an afterimage, a blur of motion that my enhanced senses barely tracked. In my previous life, before the system, I would have been dead before I knew what hit me. But I wasn't my previous self anymore. A split second later, the fist stopped dead in its tracks. Frozen. Immobilized. My open palm had caught it inches from my face, absorbing the impact like a brick wall. Agent One's eyes widened in disbelief. His ultimate strike, the technique that had killed men, broken bones, shattered concrete, was casually caught like I was swatting a fly. Lionel's jaw dropped. His composure, carefully maintained for decades, crumbled in an instant. After a moment of shock, Agent One's voice turned grim, professional. "It seems the young master is a martial artist as well. I was not informed of this. It changes things." I smirked coldly, tightening my grip on his fist until I heard the bones creak. "I knew there was a dog hiding in the shadows. I could smell you the moment you walked in. But you're wrong about one thing. I don't practice martial arts." I leaned in close, my voice dropping to a whisper. "I practice the art of killing." A sonic boom shattered the air, the sound of my leg moving faster than sound. Every hair on Agent One's body stood on end. His decades of martial instincts screamed death, screamed run, screamed you are outmatched. But before he could even attempt to retreat, my leg whipped through the air and buried itself into his abdomen with the force of a cannonball. Boom. Agent One flew backward like an artillery shell, his body folding around the point of impact. He crashed through the bathroom door, splintering it into kindling, and slammed violently into the far wall. The concrete cracked, webbing outward from the impact point like a spiderweb. His body was left embedded deep within the plaster, arms and legs dangling, completely unconscious. Lionel shot to his feet, staring at me in absolute mind-numbing horror. Agent One was the strongest guard in the Vance family. A martial arts master who had trained in hidden temples, who had fought in underground tournaments, who could casually wipe the floor with dozens of armed men without breaking a sweat. And yet against Max, against his own biological son, he couldn't survive a single strike. One hit, one kick, and the family's ultimate weapon was reduced to wall decoration. Just what kind of hell has my son walked through all these years? Lionel thought, his mind racing. What did he become while we weren't looking? While Lionel was questioning his entire reality, reevaluating every decision he had made over the past 2 decades, the front doors of the villa were blasted open. Not opened. Blasted. The heavy oak doors flew off their hinges and crashed to the floor, sending up a cloud of dust and splinters. A squad of men in black suits swarmed in, tactical earpieces gleaming, hands resting on the weapons concealed beneath their jackets. Their movements were synchronized, professional, the kind of choreography that came from years of training and field experience. Leading them was a woman with skin like white jade, her features elegant and striking. Her curves were hidden beneath a sharp black blazer, but her every movement radiated power and absolute authority. She walked like she owned the room, because in many rooms, she did. It was the eldest daughter of the Sterling family, the family that had adopted my past self. Maya Sterling. Max. Maya bypassed everyone. The guards, the Vances, the unconscious Agent One embedded in the wall, and ran straight to me, her eyes red, her voice choked with emotion. "I finally found you. Do you have any idea how worried I've been? Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere?" She frantically checked me from head to toe, her hands patting down my arms, my chest, my face. "You little brat. Running away for years without saying a word to me. How could you be so cruel? I thought you were dead. I thought something had happened to you. I thought." Despite the fact that I was only adopted, despite the fact that the Sterlings had found their biological son years ago, and I had stepped aside, Maya loved me to death. The kind of fierce, protective, slightly possessive love that only an older sister could feel. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling used to joke that if Max ever wanted to get married, the bride would have to survive Maya's approval first. And Maya's approval was not easily won. Maya clung to my arm, her gaze so fiercely gentle that it actually made me slightly uncomfortable. She was staring at me like I was the most precious thing in the world, like she was afraid I would disappear if she blinked. Memories surged up, unbidden. All the warmth and kindness the Sterling family had given the old Max, the birthday parties, the holiday dinners, the late-night conversations. The way Laura Sterling had held him when he was sick, the way Marcus Sterling had taught him to fish, the way Maya had defended him from bullies at school. It was the reason he kept the last name Sterling, even after he left. It was the reason he had never gone back to the Vance family, even when he knew they were looking for him. If the Sterlings hadn't found their biological son, if Mason hadn't shown up one day with a DNA test and a lawyer, the old Max probably would have stayed with them forever. He never would have become the Dragon King. He never would have built an empire. He would have been content to be Max Sterling, adopted son of a wealthy family, living a comfortable life without ever reaching for greatness. Funny how fate worked sometimes. Tell me right now, Max. Maya's voice hardened as she turned to glare at the Vance family, her eyes suddenly turning murderous. The warmth she had shown me vanished like a switch had been flipped, replaced by the cold, calculating gaze of a woman who had clawed her way to the top of the corporate world. Did these people hurt you? Did they lay a hand on you? Because if they did, I swear to God, I will burn their company to the ground. I will ruin them. I will make them regret the day they were born. The bodyguards behind her, however, were staring wide-eyed at the wall, specifically at the human-shaped dent in the bathroom wall, where Agent 1 was still embedded, still unconscious, still bleeding from a dozen small cuts. They recognized him. Everyone in the capital's underworld recognized Agent 1. He was the Vance family's ultimate weapon, a living legend in martial arts circles. They knew exactly how terrifying he was, had heard the stories, seen the aftermath of his work. And right now, he was currently acting as modern wall art. Good Lord, the bodyguards thought in unison, exchanging nervous glances. It's been 10 years, and our young master has turned into an absolute monster. And the young miss is worried he got hurt. He's the one doing the hurting. I gently pulled my arm out of Maya's grip and gave an awkward smile, trying to defuse the tension. Sis, break time equals 400 ms / Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling? Maya exploded before I could finish, her voice rising to a dangerous pitch. Do you want to die? Call me that one more time and see what happens. I am not Mr. Sterling. I am your sister, your only sister, and you will address me as such, or so help me. Holy crap. I felt like a demonic aura had just materialized behind her, dark and swirling and radiating murderous intent. Was female rage always this terrifying? In my previous life, I had faced down armed enemies, survived assassination attempts, stared into the eyes of men who wanted to kill me. But none of that compared to the pure, concentrated fury of an older sister who had been called Mr. Sterling. For the sake of my own safety, and the continued structural integrity of the villa, I stiffly corrected myself. Sis. Maya's expression did a complete 180. The demonic aura vanished. The murderous glare softened. A radiant, breathtaking smile bloomed on her face like the sun breaking through storm clouds. She had waited 10 years for this day. 10 years of searching, of hoping, of praying. Finally reuniting with the little brother she loved the most. Without another word, she grabbed my hand, her fingers interlacing with mine. Come home with me. Right now? We're leaving. Lionel finally snapped out of his shock, his voice rough. Maya, Max just returned to the country. He should come home with me, to the Vance family. He is my son. My blood. As for the care the Sterling family provided him, I am fully prepared to compensate you. Generously. Name your price. Shut up. Maya cut him off without even looking at him, her eyes still locked on me. Her gentleness was strictly reserved for her little brother. To the rest of the world, she was an ice queen, cold, distant, untouchable. Even facing the patriarch of the Vance family, one of the most powerful men in the country, she just shot him a look of absolute disdain over her shoulder. Patriarch Vance, Max is my brother. Naturally, he is coming home to the Sterling family. The adoption papers were completely legal, signed by all parties, witnessed by lawyers. He is a Sterling in every way that matters. As for your compensation, save it for your retirement fund. Or for Tommy's medical bills. He looks like he could use them. She finally turned to face Lionel fully, her chin raised, her eyes blazing. And regarding the fact that you clearly tried to harm Max today, sending your attack dog after him, in his own home. Oh, I'll be coming to settle that tab with you later. Consider this a formal notice. The Sterling family does not forget, and we do not forgive. Maya's sheer hostility left the usually stoic Lionel at a loss for words. He was not accustomed to being spoken to this way, especially not by a woman half his age, especially not in front of his family. But he remembered the flaw in the Vance bloodline, the genetic curse that made their family different from others. The bloodline issue was paramount. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a myth. The Vance bloodline carried a genetic marker, something that couldn't be tested by normal means, couldn't be cured, couldn't be suppressed. It made members of the family highly prone to violent loss of control, to fits of rage, to an almost supernatural combat instinct. Looking at Max's insane outburst, the casual violence, the cold calculation, the way he had dismantled Agent 1 without breaking a sweat, Lionel was suddenly certain. Max carried the curse. He was true Vance blood, and Lionel had to bring him back, for the sake of the family's future. Maya, I admit the past was my fault. I should have searched harder. I should have never stopped looking. But Max is my biological son, my only biological son, as far as I know. Is the Sterling family really going to prevent a family reunion? Is that what your parents taught you? To keep a child from his own father? Maya scoffed openly, a sharp, dismissive sound. Reunion? Is your version of a family reunion hiring martial artists to attack your son? Because that's what just happened. You brought a killer into his home and told him to teach him a lesson. That's not a reunion. That's an assassination attempt. Lionel suppressed his rage, his voice dropping dangerously low. When the Sterling family found your biological brother, Mason, Max chose to leave. He packed his bags and disappeared. He didn't want to be a burden. He didn't want to cause conflict. Why are you dragging him back now? He clearly doesn't want to acknowledge us. Doesn't that tell you what his stance is? He chose to leave the Sterlings, and he's choosing to reject the Vances. Maybe you should respect his choices. Hearing this, Maya went silent. Her grip on my hand tightened. Her jaw worked for a moment, chewing on words she didn't want to say. Because it was true. Ever since the Sterlings found their real son, Mason, the biological heir, Max had grown quiet. He never complained, never made a scene, never asked for anything. But the distance grew. The warmth cooled. The parents were heartbroken, often ignoring their real son to comfort Max, viewing them both equally, trying to pretend that nothing had changed. Maya had stayed glued to Max's side, refusing to let him feel like an outsider. But Mason wasn't exactly easy to live with. He was jealous, petty, and cruel in the way that only insecure people could be. He made snide comments. He reminded Max that he was adopted. He brought up the inheritance whenever possible. And Max, not wanting to tear the Sterling family apart, not wanting to be the cause of conflict between parents and their biological son, stubbornly left. He moved overseas, changed his contact information, made sure he couldn't be found. Seeing Maya hesitate, Lionel pressed his advantage, his voice smooth and reasonable. It seems you understand. Max belongs to the Vance family. He carries Vance blood. He will be the heir to the Vance family, taking his rightful place at the head of our empire. What can the Sterlings give him that compares to that? A payout? A corner office? Or are you going to force him to fight your real brother for the inheritance that should have been his all along? Because we both know how that will end. Mason will never accept him, and Max will never be truly welcome. Therefore, I think, enough. I cut him off, my voice cold as winter steel. Patriarch Vance, whatever history I have with the Sterling family, whatever debts of gratitude I owe them, I guarantee you one thing. My future has absolutely nothing to do with the Vance family. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Today's meeting is over. Get out. Max. Victoria looked at me, completely devastated. Tears streamed down her cheeks unchecked. You hit them. You yelled at us. You broke a man's bones and embedded him in your wall. Can you really not forgive us? The past was our fault. All of it. We should have found you sooner. We should have looked harder. But does your own mother have to drop to her knees and beg you? Is that what it will take? Her voice cracked, and her legs gave out. She genuinely started to kneel, to prostrate herself on my marble floor in front of her husband, her daughter, her adopted son, and a squad of Sterling family bodyguards. Maya moved faster than I could react. She stepped forward, grabbed Victoria's arm, and lifted her back up with surprising strength. Her voice was pure ice. Mrs. Vance, are you trying to guilt-trip Max? Are you trying to brand him as an unfilial son to the rest of the world? Because that's what it looks like. Look at me. I'm the poor mother kneeling before her cruel son. Drop the fake act. From start to finish, the Vance family only cares about securing a strong heir, don't you? That's all this is about. You don't care about Max. You care about his bloodline. You care about the curse. She took a breath, her eyes blazing. Did you spend the last 10 years searching for him while he was with us? No. You couldn't find him. Your words. So you immediately bought a replacement. Tommy, you poured all your love, all your resources, all your attention into a stranger, and now that you want him back, he's supposed to just fall in line? Like a dog you left at the pound and suddenly want to reclaim? Maya, Tessa helped her mother up, firing back with equal venom. Are you any better? You lost your real son. Mason was taken. You thought he was dead, so you adopted Max. You found your real son, so you abandoned Max. Don't stand there and act like you have the moral high ground. You're just as guilty as we are. Maybe more. At least we didn't stop looking. At least we didn't replace him with someone else. Tessa thought this would deal a critical blow to Maya, would make her falter, would make her see her own hypocrisy. But Maya merely laughed, a cold, humorless sound. We are entirely different, Tessa. The heir to the Sterling family has always been me. Me. I am the one running the company. I am the one making the decisions. Even if my biological brother came back, even if Mason suddenly decided he wanted to be CEO, so what? Nothing changes. I will always love Max. I will always protect him. And so will my parents. I don't care about your family drama, I said, my voice cutting through the argument like a blade. I don't care who abandoned whom, who replaced whom, who has the moral high ground. I just want to eat dinner and go to sleep. It's been a long day, and I'm tired of listening to people yell in my living room. I turned to Maya. Sis, can we please go? I'll come with you. Just break time equals 400 ms / get me out of here. Maya's face softened instantly. She nodded, then turned to her bodyguards. What are you standing there for? Escort our guests out. Now. The guards immediately advanced in unison, forming a wall of black suits between the Vances and me. Maya stepped in front of me, completely blocking the Vance family from making another move, her body a shield between me and them. As the Vance family was escorted, practically dragged, toward the door, I caught Lionel's eye. He looked back at me one last time, his expression unreadable. Something passed between us, an acknowledgement, maybe, or a warning. Then he was gone, swallowed by the darkness outside. After Agent 1 was peeled out of the drywall, it took 4 men to pull him free, and tossed onto the lawn like garbage. The living room finally fell quiet. Maya turned to face me, her eyes still shining with unshed tears. She grabbed both my hands, her grip almost painfully tight. "Come home with me, Max. Please. I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you. Come home." I smiled bitterly, shaking my head. "Sis, please don't make me go back. I've been gone for years. I'm an adult now. I have my own life, my own responsibilities. I'll come visit when I have time, I promise. I'll have dinner with the family. I'll sit through Mom's nagging. I'll let Dad give me unsolicited business advice. But moving back in? That's not." Before I could finish my carefully crafted argument, Maya's soft hand slapped over my mouth, cutting me off mid-sentence. "You've got some nerve talking back to me. Adult? In my eyes, you're always my little brat. The same little boy who used to cry when I left for college. The same little boy who used to sneak into my room during thunderstorms. Don't think just because you're stronger now, just because you can punch people through walls, I can't handle you. You either walk out of here with me willingly, or I will bury you in the wall next to that guard. Your choice." I gently pulled her hand down, a genuine warmth blooming in my chest despite myself. Carrying the memories of my past self, I knew exactly how deep the Sterling family's love for me ran. It wasn't conditional. It wasn't transactional. It was the kind of love that asked for nothing in return. But the Sterlings weren't the Vances. I had zero problem crippling Tommy Vance. The man had asked for it, practically begged for it. But I couldn't touch Mason Sterling. The Sterlings owed me nothing. They had given me everything. A home, a name, a family. And I had repaid them by disappearing for 10 years. After using force twice today, first with Kyle and Lily, then with Tommy and Agent 1, I knew my personality was shifting. Maybe it was the transmigration. Maybe it was the system. Maybe it was the sheer suppressed rage of my past self's tragic life, finally boiling over. But my temper was getting increasingly violent. My first instinct when something annoyed me was no longer to talk it out or walk away. It was to destroy it. If I went back to the Sterling house and Mason picked a fight, which he would, because he always picked fights, I couldn't guarantee I wouldn't accidentally kill him. And that would break the Sterlings' hearts. That would undo everything they had done for me. Maya clearly sensed my hesitation, the way my eyes flickered, the way my shoulders tensed. She grabbed both my hands again, her voice softening, almost pleading. "Max, be good. Come home with me. Please. I'm not like Tessa. I'm not going to make you fight Mason for scraps of affection. If Mason dares to cross the line with you, if he says one wrong word, I will personally deal with him. I'll send him to his room like the child he is. Don't cause trouble, okay? Just break time equals 400 ms/ come home." I sighed, shaking my head. "If you step in, how does that make you any different from Tessa? You're just doing the same thing, choosing sides, playing favorites, turning the family into a battleground. I don't care. Stop making excuses and come with me." Maya put her hands on her hips, trying to look intimidating. Furrowed brow, narrowed eyes, pursed lips, but just coming off extremely cute. Like a kitten pretending to be a lion. Knowing I wasn't getting out of this, and honestly, not wanting to fight anymore, I reluctantly nodded. Besides, I owed Mr. and Mrs. Sterling a debt of gratitude for raising the old me. The least I could do was visit them, have a meal, pretend to be a good son for a few hours. But staying there long term? Absolutely not. I had a Dragon King palace to run, a gala to attend, a rival system user to investigate, and possibly a dragon god to kill. I didn't have time for family dinners. As we walked out of the villa, past the unconscious Agent 1, past the weeping Tommy, past the shell-shocked Victoria, Maya even found time to tease me.